everybody. Welcome to another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. You're chopping it up with Chuck, and we are here today with David Wallach, the marketing director of PolyScience. David, how the heck are you?
I'm good, buddy. I'm really good. It's great to hear your voice. I hope you're being safe and well in these crazy times.
We are. This is being recorded on March 26th, 2020. We are now in over here, I think we're in like day 8 of quarantine, of lockdown. And I have discovered that the turntable in my microwave makes one rotation every 10 seconds. It just goes around. These are the things you discover when you're trapped at your house for a while. How's everything going over on your end?
You know, we're doing good. We're being safe and just taking the necessary precautions. Yesterday, which would be Wednesday the 25th, it was, a warm day in Chicago, which was 60 degrees, and people flooded the lakefront. And the mayor has now shut down the lakefront of Chicago, which I don't think has ever been done before. So it's you got to be safe. You got to just be smart. It's boring as it is. I'd rather be bored than dead.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you do have to get out. You can't get out and play a pickup game of basketball. I heard that was frowned upon. Group volleyball is no good. But, I took my daughter out on the trail yesterday just for a minute to get out of the house. And it is good, just to get out, get some sunshine and, just kind of take a deep breath, I guess.
Yeah, like someone in our neighborhood started a thing called Walk with Chalk, right? So everyone's taking walks. It's like 1920 all over again, right? And they're taking sidewalk chalk and just decorating the sidewalks and leaving nice notes for the elderly or saying hello to friends and it's really cool because our neighborhood is suddenly lit up with color as you're walking. So it's spreading the positive and being smart, but definitely got to stay away from each other.
Yeah. So what's going on at your company? You guys are a pretty big company. Tell our audience they're not familiar what PolyScience does.
PolyScience, I tell people, is the company that keeps changing the world and no one really knows about it. Our president, Philip Preston, is an amazing guy because his left brain and his right brain both get along. And, sometimes in manufacturing and in engineering, that isn't necessarily the case. But Philip is the guy responsible for bringing sous vide cooking to the forefront in the world again. It's an old technique of cooking, but he kind of reinvented sous vide cooking. He invented a thing called the anti-griddle, which it's a cold griddle. Your pancakes have a hot griddle. This is a cold griddle. So chefs all over the world use it for desserts. If you go to Cold Stone Creamery, fancy rolled up ice cream.
Yeah.
He invented that technology. And in the cannabis space, which is, one of the things that we're here to talk about, it's interesting because he sells industrial laboratory equipment, liquid temperature control equipment. And we sell a thing called a chiller. Always have. And about 10 or 11 years ago, the cannabis industry came to PolyScience because as you're distilling cannabis, as you know, from the plant to the liquid, it's got to be cold and hot, and you can do it in a dangerous way with dry ice and fire, or they realized by attaching our machines to the distillation process, you can do it in a safe manner and get a quicker, cleaner, better yield, and also not have to worry about blowing yourself up.
So you guys are pretty high speed over there. I mean, you're that's the cool part of, Cannabis and Tech today is we get to talk to these companies that are, it could be a TV show with all the cool inventions, like Shark Tank. Like there's some really smart people in the cannabis industry. And I think that a lot of people don't realize that.
And what's interesting with Philip, again, he's just a great, humble guy. When the cannabis industry, everyone's in the cannabis industry now, right? It's like .com was. But 10, 11 years ago, they came, a company came to him and he had to make the conscious decision to do it. And before he did it, he did his research. And it wasn't just about, if it was just about getting high, he didn't want to be a part of it. But he realized that the medical side of cannabis and what it could do, and he read about Charlotte's Web. And that's when he made the decision. It had to be more about making money, but it had to be about helping the world. And he decided to start working with the cannabis industry, which is spectacular because now, everyone, your magazine and other magazines are full of people who are now in it and selling every type of thing in the world where, we've been doing it for over a decade and, proving that what we do makes sense and it's actually helping in a good way.
Yeah, I get asked this question all the time. People are like, "Oh, cannabis and tech. What does tech have to do with cannabis?" And we're finding more and more that it's got a whole hell of a lot to do with it, because there's a lot of science involved. And I think what's really interesting too is during this coronavirus situation that we've got going on right now, cannabis is emerging in a lot of these states as an essential business. Manufacturing is an essential business, so I think when it's all said and done and we get out on the other side of this, we're going to have earned, the cannabis industry itself, and a lot of these businesses will have earned some stripes and really, put their best foot forward as far as innovation and technology and really stepping up, good jobs. And, it's, these are strange times, but I really think that the cannabis industry and the businesses like yours, they're going to come out on the other side stronger, better, smarter, and really having, continued to push the industry forward.
It's what I love about that is we were declared an essential business by the governor of Illinois, because we make the equipment that the laboratory world and the medical world uses to keep running. So our equipment attaches to the equipment that will actually help hopefully someday cure this virus. And what's even cooler than that, everyone says, oh, Starbucks should be essential or the liquor store should be essential. But our president showed me these letters. We got about a dozen letters from other companies around the world saying, we need you to be essential. We need you to stay open. We need your equipment so we can do our job. And it touched me. It touched all of us. And he gathered our employees together. And a lot of us are working remotely because in marketing, I don't need to be there. I'm in my pajamas and I haven't shaved in, 100 days. But our factory workers decided to go back to work. He said, you don't have to come back. I'm not going to force you to come back. And sure enough, one by one, it was like a movie. They said they want to do it, and our factory is still operating. Now we've put a lot of things in place, so they're far away apart. They're eating lunch in their cars. They're wearing masks and gloves, but they realized that even in doing our small part to help us battle this horrible virus, being essential is important. And it's not just a joke like Starbucks, or Dunkin' Donuts, God forbid if that closed. But I'm really proud of the people that I work with and the guy that I work for. And yeah, in the cannabis space as well. We're still available. We're still making products.
I just think I think it's awesome. I believe that I saw this yesterday or something like that. A lot of companies are going to be defined, for decades to come by how they react to this situation. You're going to see across the gamut, companies doing great things, taking care of their employees, taking care of their customers. You're going to see, companies on the other side, maybe just, kind of shutting down and going into the turtle mode for a bit. But I think that you're going to see, when this is said and done, that a lot of companies will have really established themselves as good, good companies, good culture, good, just kind of giving back. And I think that is, it's an opportunity for a lot of companies to step up and show that they care about their people, more so than even profits.
Yeah, it's a hard time. It's a horrible time, but we focus on the positive and the people who have actually been doing good and have put those best practices in place way before this ever happened. That's what's going to pay off, to your point. And yeah, we're going to go through a change. We're going to go through a major change, and change is never easy. This sounds ridiculous, but I was doing Peloton bike, and the instructor said, underneath struggle, there is strength. And I was like, wow, I really hate standing up right now on my bike and sweating it out, but it stuck with me, because it was true. We're all struggling, but there's also strength that's going to come from this.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get into the cannabis industry? Everybody's got a really interesting story of how they got into the cannabis biz. What's your background?
Well, it was freshman year with my friend Tim Van Hoof, and he said, hey, why don't you try this? And suddenly I was in the cannabis industry, but probably mean on a more professional level, right?
Yeah. How did you get to end up working for such a cool company? My background is in broadcast and television, and I've worked and developed TV shows and other things my whole life. And
Philip Preston, who's the president of PolyScience, was a friend of mine from Cub Scouts, oddly enough. And when I wasn't working on TV shows and stuff, I started creating video content for him. And then more video content for him and more video content for him. And then we did a series of cannabis specific video content. And I started giving him not just the videos, but marketing plans to go along with them because they were so cool. It's almost like mini Cannabis Tech Talks with him and Elliot Klemmerman from the president of Summit Industries, where they're talking at a high level about short path distillation or the future of cannabis technology and how the industry is evolving. And again, it's two titans in the industry sitting down in a lab and just chatting. And from that, he just said, how would you like to take over my marketing? And let's make this for real. And I jumped in to work with him with both feet into the pool. So it's we started working on our cannabis side of things, and started working with guys like Tommy Chong to be our spokesperson and talking to the industry in a way that the industry, I think, needed to be talked to instead of talked at, and loved every minute of it.
That is, that's awesome. So you basically kind of taught yourself how to do the job.
I was chief marketing officer of some other companies. I worked for a running company. I worked with Under Armour and the Dairy Management Incorporated. I spent a year and a half trying to make milk cool to millennials, which is, it's white and it's plain and it doesn't do anything at its best. So,
the mustache commercial, that was big.
Yeah. So fighting the hard fight and the interesting marketing battles has always been kind of a thing for me that I've thrived at. But with the cannabis space, we took a step back. I love studying. I love researching. And when you produce a documentary, you'll spend 5-6 months researching before you start rolling film. And my team and I just stopped. I think a lot of people are just throwing money at marketing and advertising and saying, just keep getting our name out there and just keep doing what everyone else is doing and it will work. And if you look at the pages of the magazines or you look online, they all start to look the same. The colors are black and green and white, and they show the flower or the plant or the hippie girl smoking a joint, and you can't tell the difference from one to the other. And we decided to go in a different direction. We never talk about getting high because we don't make the machine that gets you high.
Right.
We talked about our strengths. We talk about how we can help, how we can add value, and how we can be completely different than everyone else. And in sort of taking a left turn, our ads started standing out. I mean, you guys have called us just laughing about the stuff that we've produced. Other magazines have called us and like, this is crazy because what you're doing looks so different. And, again, we went from 5% of our web traffic being the cannabis industry to over 30 in a year by making sure that what we do is always just a little bit different and always in our voice. And we have a competitor who I'm not going to name. They make a chiller as well. And their tagline is, we go low so you can get high. Which is funny, but kind of classless, right? And we always decide to keep it above board. Our taglines are, Philip said it in one of the interviews with Elliot, is if your chiller is down, you're not making money, period. And again, if you're in the cannabis industry, there's a lot of goals to help medicine and help people with seizures, but it's also to make money. And you can make $350,000 a day cash if everything is working right per setup, is something that I was told. So could be wrong, could be higher, could be lower, right? But if that chiller is working at maximum capacity, you're making money. So we talk to them to the way they want to be talked about. Because we're not talking to the end user, we're talking to the business and the techies. Back to your point is, you have to know your audience. And we talk to the people who work in the labs and the people who are in the tech side of it, not the end user like my friends from college or my neighbor.
Right. Well, listen, I'll tell you what, this is fascinating. And I want to talk to you about working with Tommy Chong because you guys shot a commercial with Tommy Chong at MJ Biz. And I want to tell our audience the scoop. But first, we got to take a quick break and give a shout out to one of our sponsors. And then we will jump right back and we are going to find out about what it was like for you to direct Tommy Chong in a commercial for PolyScience. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Today's episode is brought to you by Fluence by OSRAM. Fluence creates lighting solutions for controlled environment commercial crop production. They apply the latest research in photobiology, evidence-based design, precise engineering, and advanced technology to foster a healthier and more sustainable world. Cannabis is one of the most complex crops to grow successfully, so the experts at Fluence by OSRAM wrote a guide to make it easier. Check out the link below to the Ultimate Cannabis Cultivation Guide, or visit www.fluence.science to learn more.
Hey, everybody, we're back. You're chopping it up with Chuck here on Cannabis Tech Talks, and we're here with David Wallach from the marketing director from PolyScience. And you guys are a essential business. We are also by Colorado an essential business. Newspapers, magazines, that kind of stuff. Getting information out is important, and you guys are. That's a pretty cool thing, right?
Yeah, it's a very cool thing. We're very proud of it. We actually we made an icon that we're sharing on all of our social. If you go to PolyScience Laboratory and Industrial on Facebook, or find us on Insta or LinkedIn or Twitter, it's just proud to be an essential American manufacturer. And it's not branded. It has nothing to do with us, but it's something that we want to share with all the other companies and all the other people, that from the people in the factory to the people who are out there on the front lines, the EMTs who are fighting this, and they can grab it, they can have it, and they can share it, because we should find things to be proud of right now. And this is, as we alluded to earlier, something I am so incredibly proud of for my company, and then also for the people who are out there doing it every day right now.
Yeah, big shout out to SDM Cannabis as well, a company that I'm involved with out of Spokane, Washington. They as well are in the manufacturing space, and they've had to change some things around, but they're suiting up, they're going to work, and they're still churning out necessary equipment for the cannabis industry. But you're right, yeah, this is where we're starting to see right now. Obviously there's a lot of turbulence. There's still going to be, probably several more weeks of this, maybe a month. I mean, who knows? But man, there are really some people stepping up that you've got to tip your cap to. The nurses, the people that, the people that have to work out there, people that are frontline, people working in the grocery stores, dealing with mad herds of people hoarding toilet paper and stuff like that. Those people are busting their asses. People that can't stay home, that have to work. My daughter, she's 8, and her teachers are all, going above and beyond to try to not only teach them, but give them a sense of normalcy, through all this right now. So yeah, absolutely. Just want to give a quick shout out to all of those businesses out there and all those people that are essential and are, strapping it up every day, going out fighting the good fight.
Amen to that, my man. Amen to that.
Okay, let's talk Tommy Chong. Tell our audience, kind of set the scene, if you will. MJ Biz, at your guys' booth up in the front. You guys had a great location. Tell us about the commercial with Tommy.
It's funny because we partner, we share a booth with Summit Industries, and they're the kind of the kings of short path out in California. And the president, Elliot, called me on a Thursday before MJ Biz. Was like, dude, we got this opportunity to work with Tommy Chong, and you need to write commercials for him, and we need to have them ready by Monday. I'm like, but it's Thursday, and it's Tommy Chong. He's like, dude, it's going to be amazing. Click, hangs up. And I get an email, and I contact Tommy's people, and they're like, yeah, he'll do whatever you want, but you got to write these scripts for Tommy Chong. And it's, again, there's a difference between writing a script for like some random spokesperson and Tommy Chong trying to be funny and having 3 days to do it. So I was in a panic mode, but I wrote these scripts and I sent them to his agent, and his agent and I go over them, and Tommy's cool with it. And then it comes time to meet at MJ Biz, and we get there before it's open. So we've got the place to ourselves in our booth, and Tommy shows up. Very cool guy. I mean, just like, I'm 6'4" and he's probably 5'8", and I felt like I was looking up at him, because he's a comedic icon. He's an icon in the cannabis industry.
Absolutely.
It's just like, you instantly just want to start touching him, because it's just, wow, you're Tommy, you're right there,
Yeah.
And I've interviewed the president, I've interviewed Michael Jordan, I've interviewed royalty, and I just, again, anyway, so we rehearsed everything. The cameras are set up. We go with the scripts. I'm like, you got this, Tommy? He's like, yeah, man, I got it. I'm like, cool. And I walk behind the camera. I go, action, Tommy. And he starts doing whatever the heck he wants. And I kind of cut. And I walk over. And again, he had to travel from LA. He's 80 years old.
Yeah.
Tommy, you got this? It's like, yeah, man, I got this. Walk behind the camera. And, action, Tommy. And he starts doing whatever he wants. And I look over at his agent. His agent just kind of smiles and shrugs, and his son kind of smiles and shrugs. And normally being a type A director, I would have been like, cut, and started kind of barking at him. And it hit me that one of the greatest comedic minds is ad-libbing with me.
Yeah.
And we just started dancing, and I would just start throwing out kind of our messages of what he had to say. And he just doing whatever he want, and he would get it in. And the result, they're on our YouTube page, and we've got a new one that I think we're going to drop with you guys. They're so funny and so good. And I was so great. I was soaking wet with sweat. I mean, you and Adam were there.
Yeah. You guys had a big crowd too. There were a lot of celebrities at MJ Biz. We saw Debo at one side, from Friday. We saw, there were celebrities here and there, but you guys, I think, had one of the biggest crowds because everybody wanted to see Tommy.
It's funny because at one point a light went out. And we were working when the place was closed. And then suddenly when you're directing and you're working with a guy like him and he's ad-libbing with you, we were just locked in eye to eye. And I was just trying to make sure that he had my energy and I could go off of his energy. And a light goes out and I walk over to him and I look up and there's this massive crowd around me. And one of your cameras is pointing at us and Fox has got a camera pointing at us. CNBC's got a camera pointing at us. And I got kind of wild-eyed and Tommy looks at me and goes, dude, relax, man. You're the second most attractive guy in the place right now. Just enjoy it.
That is so cool, man. He's just like a calming presence. Have you ever seen the show Curb Your Enthusiasm on HBO?
Oh, love it.
Yeah, they don't have like scripted scenes per se with all their words. They just flow. And I think that's what makes the show so cool is you've got a lot of great, comedic talents on that show. And they all kind of feed off each other's vibe, kind of like you were just, just picking up off Tommy's vibe and being like, let's roll with it.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool. And the result, again, he's our new spokesperson for our new chiller called DuraChill. And the way he sells it and the way he talks about it. Again, I think you guys are going to post him and it's also on our YouTube page. It's just,
yeah, for those listening, you can Google, and go and see it because the commercials are funny as hell.
Yeah, I was really grateful. And again, just to be with a guy like that, and you got to meet him, and there was a line for 6 hours after we got done of people that wanted to take pictures and meet him. And we'll say some other heavyweight champion boxers showed up for 45 minutes and were kind of a-holes to people. Tommy was there for 6 hours taking pictures and signing autographs and just the stories and like touching people. And, it was really cool when someone who you appreciate actually turns out to be as cool as you think you hope they are.
Yeah. So we had Tommy on the cover of one of our issues, and I think he saw it there and he was like, whoa, man, I'm on the cover of a magazine, And then we actually were at an investment summit, a cannabis investment summit, and we had the Tommy Chong issue and Cheech was there. So we got a picture of Cheech holding, the issue of Cannabis and Tech Today with Tommy Chong on it. And he's like making a funny face, pointing at him. And then upcoming issue, then we got Cheech. So we got Cheech and Chong back together on Cannabis and Tech Today. But you're right. They both were super cool. Just very down to earth, gracious people, nice ambassadors for the industry for sure.
Yeah, and as an aside, bringing it kind of all the way back to the beginning of our conversation, Tommy's Instagram right now is hysterical because he's locked in and he's just making these videos. And if you need some time to kill, it's Hey Tommy Chong on Instagram. It's just so funny.
That's great. I'm going to check that out. So what do we do now moving forward? What do you think is going to change in the industry, once we emerge from this? And we will, eventually we're going to do our thing and we're going to come out the other side of this. You're a sage veteran of the industry. What do you think is going to be different, moving forward in kind of how we do business, events, the cannabis industry as a whole? You got any sort of speculation?
I think the current trend is right now is we start to move forward as people are focusing on the positive. And trying to get out a positive message. And I think that this is kind of like the .com bubble bursting in a strange way, right? Where 6 months ago, 5 months ago, 3 months ago, everyone was running into the cannabis industry and trying to get their piece. And I think that this is going to weed out, for lack of a better word, the weak, right? And the people and the companies that matter. will rise because they have that foundation and they have that infrastructure. And infrastructure and foundation doesn't mean cash necessarily, because there's a lot of guys throwing a lot of cash to get involved, but it's the knowledge and the strength and the belief that what they're doing is right and good. And that's how they were founded. And there's a lot of great companies like that you had mentioned. And, we mentioned Summit, and there's, dozens and dozens of others that will withstand this tide, and they will grow and hopefully continue to make the industry stronger. And I would like to believe that PolyScience is one of those as well.
Yeah. I what I find is so ironic about this whole thing is that, and we do other tech magazines over here too. We've got Innovation in Tech today. We've got Residential Tech today. So we go to a lot of events. We're around a lot of big, awesome companies and cool technologies, but nothing is as social as the cannabis industry. When you think about it, just the experience of cannabis is you're sharing, you're with groups, you're with people. It's a very social industry. It's a very, very connected networking type industry. And it's just so ironic that, the one thing that we have to do during this time period is stay away from people. You know what I mean? Like, it's just ironic because at these events, it's very social, right? I mean, cannabis, consuming cannabis, smoking cannabis, it's a social thing. And the one thing you take away right now is the ability to be with a bunch of people. It's bizarre.
I think it's going to make it better. There's people like yourself, right? You and I are friends. And when I finally do get to see you again and wrap my arms around you or shake your hand or drink a beer or whatever, it's going to make it that much better, because these trade shows, for instance, you jump from one to the other and it becomes a blur.
Yeah.
And instead I'm going to throw a pitch out for PolyScience. PolyScience is the title sponsor of CannaCon in Chicago in July. And who knows if it's going to happen or not, but if it does, it's going to be one of the first cannabis trade shows back on the calendar, right? Yeah. And to see old friends after a month or 4 months, and to be able to touch them and see them, it's going to make it better. I can't wait to see you. I can't wait to see Adam. I can't wait to see, our friends from Summit. And instead of just being every 3 weeks on this grind, we're going to appreciate it. We're going to appreciate it much more.
Yeah. Last time I saw you, people were getting into a hot air balloon.
Yeah, I don't remember much about that night, but
but isn't it funny? You look back and it's it's like an episode of The Hangover. You look back and there's just little flashes throughout the night. You remember, and I just remember that there was a hot air balloon, and I was like, man, they really took this party to the next level.
The next level party when there's a hot air balloon.
Shout out to Fairchild.
Just hanging out with a hot air balloon. Why not, right?
Yeah. So what do you guys? So later on this year, do you guys have anything? Anything is CannaCon kind of the next big thing for PolyScience on the calendar, provided that still happens?
Yeah. I mean, again, DuraChill is our new chiller, and we are making it, and it is the most innovative chiller out there. And we kind of made it cannabis proof, right? It's got a self-changing filter. So you don't have to change your filter, and you can pour the water in the reservoir in the front, and on and on and on. So that's out there, and it's brand new, and that's something we're proud of. As far as being out in the world, CannaCon, yeah, we are the title sponsors of CannaCon Chicago. And again, cannabis is legal in Illinois, but the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, kind of put the brakes on making dispensaries legal until July. So dispensaries are going to be opening in July in the actual city of Chicago. I mean, you can drive outside the city and get whatever you want, but dispensaries will be open in Chicago in July. CannaCon's coming to Chicago in July, God willing. And PolyScience is the title sponsor of CannaCon in Chicago. So it's going to be like the World's Fair of cannabis, I think, when the world finally gets to come back together and we all get to see each other and celebrate this industry. We're the ones hosting the party.
Yeah, right there in your stomping ground, your backyard. Chicago's a great city. Illinois, man, they, from what I know, they are gung-ho about cannabis and, super excited about it expanding there and everything like that. Hey, one last thing I wanted to touch on, though, is you were talking about your chiller and the filter. You guys are really into sustainability, right? You're Philip, he is a guy that is very passionate about sustainability, and that shows in products like your chiller.
He is. He doesn't just speak it, he actually lives it. He has a house that in the suburbs of Chicago, he has a 2-acre house, and that's like, normally that would be about 19 houses crammed in together. And one of the acres is a farm that he built that he grows. I want to say it's 10,000 tons of food a year. And he farms himself with his kids, and he donates all that farm to charities. I mean, this is a guy who, when he says he lives it, he actually lives it. So in our chiller, there's a lot of things that make it more sustainable. The self-changing filter is one of them. Normally you change your air filter once a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe on your chiller, it's once every 3 months. So that's less things going into landfills because you don't have to change it for actually up to 3 years, depending on how you use it. That's less landfill. We have a UV light on the back of the chiller that actually cleans the water that goes into your chiller. So again, it's less algicides going back into the watershed. Even noise pollution, we have a technology called Whisper Cool that's patented. So there's less noise in your lab. It's easier to work around. DuraChill is not a redo, but it's a brand new idea. And our tagline is changing the world of chillers forever. And it really has. And it helps the environment. It's going to help the cannabis industry. And I could go on and on about this thing. I don't want to, sell too much, but it's really is an amazing thing, not only for the cannabis industry, but as we move forward, it's got refrigerant gases that it's ready to change over to that. So again, there's a lot of thought that went into making this thing. It's not just a cool box, but it's a box full of magic.
A cool company, a cool chiller, and a cool dude, David Wallach. Tell people how they can find you, get a hold of you, what your website is, so that they can check out PolyScience.
PolyScience.com or Durachill.com. And of course, we're on all the social PolyScience Laboratory. And we love to, again, share that badge as well, as we're proud of our partners and our friends out there. So check us out.
It is always a pleasure, my friend, to be able to speak with you. I feel like we could do this all day long, but Adam is giving me the hook, and there's flashing red lights. So until we speak again, it's so great to talk to you. Again, I'm excited to see how the industry pulls together, how we innovate through crisis, and how we come out on the other end. And just love talking to people like you and cool companies like PolyScience.
We appreciate it, buddy. Keep it up.
Okay. Take care, man. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks. If you like this episode, make sure that you give it a like, share with your friends. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And until then, make sure you check out our website, the social media pages. We've got lots of cool stuff that we're bringing out about cannabis companies and tech that is really stepping up right now during this time. And until then, we will see you on another episode of Cannabis Tech Talks.